our next presenter. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Debbie. Good morning to everyone. Good morning, everyone. Yes, don't let me sound like I have been stripped of energy. Not like my friend Philip. I'm really happy to be here this morning, I must tell you. I particularly wanted to participate in this event because not only is it on the cutting edge of the new experience of the area of life that I'm involved in, but also it is pretty much the way forward in terms of global and what I now call glocal development. Because as a result of this fourth revolution, there is nothing local anymore, nor is anything global anymore. Everything is now glocal. Because what you do here, you think it's about you, but we're hyper-connected. And that hyperconnection is creating some awful disruptions. And with these disruptions become all sorts of dislocation that is asking for redefinition and re-understanding of who we are, creating some new realities, some even virtual, some augmented. And so our new world is about manipulating new realities. I wanted to join the previous speakers in acknowledging and saluting the key players for today's very important seminar. And certainly I want to salute His Excellency, my friend, Mr. Sivala Naik, and also my colleague and friend for a long time. And also he will recall as a little boy how he traversed a particular area that was very dear to my heart and learned a lot. Philip, you have really grown and excelled, and I think you've made your mark on not only the local political scene, but internationally. Erica, you're precious. You're really the star of today's show, and we wanted to give her a special hand for the courage to put this event together. And if you know what she is going through, and she tells me she has to talk to me afterwards, and I'm in trepidation over that conversation. Members of the media and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, earlier when Philip spoke, and he did so well, he started where he really knew, and that's correct. You should start where you know. So I have to help him a little bit with what he didn't know. That, for example, this whole business of the huge transformation in telecommunication and digitalization, which has reached us, had earlier beginnings. And I remember that Jamaica became, in the early 80s, the first destination country, in fact, outside of the US. And it wasn't all over the US. It was only in certain cities in the US that had fiber optic cable installed. And we developed what in Montego Bay became the first digiport in the entire Caribbean. And that became the genesis of the telecommunication revolution, and in fact the whole business of data management and data manipulation that has morphed into BBOs and all those wonderful things today. But you know what is very little known is that there was a little young minister in 1980 who was in the office of the Prime Minister, and we developed a project then called Project X. And Project X was to chart the path for the new telecommunication highway for Jamaica. And we spent a lot of time on that with Jamaica and looking at what the then Cable and Wireless had. And when he spoke about liberalization and having to deal with breaking up that monopoly then, it brought back memories to my mind of some kinds of agreement and contractual arrangement that gave full control of telephony for technology present, past, and in the future. And I wondered how we managed to have constructed something like that. But it was deconstructed, and today we have a very liberalized telecommunication system that has served us extremely well. So congratulations. My comments, however, for you are not going to go back too far as that. I'm going to talk a little bit about how telecommunications, and in fact how the new technologies are impacting tourism and what we have been able to use it to do and how we've been able to drive growth. And Philip alluded to it as a result and what the future portends. So travel and tourism industry has always been about building relationships and creating experiences. Travel agents were the original experience brokers. A customer looking to book a trip would visit a travel agency, and with the help of an attentive agent and some glossy brochures, would select their destination of choice. However, as we have all experienced, new technology has upended the travel industry in a most profound way, changing travelers' behavior and expectations. The result is some of the most significant disruptions in modern business. Travel agents is no longer a necessary intermediary between customer and service travelers, as you yourselves are experiencing. Today's traveler can visit interactive web portals to research travel destinations and accommodations. They can go to online platforms such as Expedia, Travelocity, or Priceline and book an entire customized trip themselves. Moreover, they can do so on their mobile phones or laptops anywhere and anytime. And as it is morphing, you'll probably be able to do it from your watch. And in time, you may have an implant and you just, speak to it. We're going to talk about Siri and Anna and Alex a little later on. But, it's the new way. It's the new way. So some 40% of Jamaica's travel are booked through a combination of 3 online travel sites: Expedia, Bookit.com, and CheapCaribbean.com, with Expedia itself responsible for the lion's share of 20% of these bookings. Yet, this new technology, social media, mobile applications, and other digital platforms, has in no way compromised the tourism experience. And this is the point that we want. So people feel that with this less personal approach, it means less connectivity or a diminishing of the experience. And when you listen a little longer, you will realize how these experiences are now being augmented. Indeed, we are creating even new and exciting experiences. On the contrary, new technology has enhanced travel and tourism and has led to more enriching opportunities for both the traveler and the destination. Social media is a new generator of experiences and lends itself beautifully to destination marketing. So, technology and tourism go hand in hand. It's a perfect match made in heaven or on earth. So, digital platforms now have created a seismic shift in how the world receives, shares, and uses content. And they are more influential than they have ever been in informing travel decisions. For Jamaica, this presents a significant marketing opportunity to engage these active users and reach a larger segment of our travel market. And I'm just going to give you some numbers now to bear out that point. So international tourism arrivals last year grew by 7%, reaching 1.32 billion. And just to let you know that in 2010, 940 million people traveled across the world for touristic purposes. By 2017, 7 years, 1.32 billion. That's running an average of some 43 million per year. So according to these numbers, we are also seeing a sustained and consistent trend in growth, and it's expecting that we will grow between 4 and 5% globally over the next 5 years to reach in 2028. And I don't know why they stop at 28. I like to go to 2030. It's a nice round number, right? To 2 billion people will be traveling all over. But they also spend, last year, $8.3 trillion, which is 10% of global GDP. And investment overall, FDIs generated by tourism globally, was $882 billion, or 4.5% of all the investments of the world. But most importantly, at the global level, according to the WTTC, some 313 million jobs were generated last year from tourism. And it's expected that by 2030, it will get to 450 million, which represents 1 in 10 of all the jobs on planet Earth. And the impact of tourism as a key component of the global GDP, beyond the 10% that we mentioned, is 30% of trade in services. So as part of the service sector, tourism is the #1 element of it. So in Jamaica now, we experienced another record year last year. We brought in 4.3 million visitors to our shore, and that represented a 12.1% increase over 2016. This figure comprised some 2.35 million stopover arrivals and 1.95 million crews. And the revenue from that was approximately $3 billion for Jamaica. It is expected this year, of course, that we will grow by some 5% as we have projected for the next 5 years. And hopefully we will get to our target of 5 million visitors very shortly, and to earn $5 billion eventually by 2021. But that performance, added to an accumulative performance over the last 10 years, I think, represent over 36% growth. So tourism grew in the last 6 to 7 years by 36%. While the GDP of the country grew accumulatively over the same period by 6%. So you can see that tourism's growth is 6 times on an annualized basis that of your GDP. Although we represent 8.4% of GDP overall, the true contribution and impact is closer to 30%. So what we're saying, therefore, is that this industry that we have is also hugely connected. It employs 117,000 Jamaicans directly, and indirectly about 300,000. But it is connected to agriculture, the creative and cultural industries, entertainment, manufacturing, transportation, finance and insurance, electricity and water, construction, and so many other areas. So the point we're making is that tourism is a series of moving parts that must connect seamlessly to create that experience that we market and we sell. So we don't exist without all the other moving parts. And that is why it is so critical for us to be able to benefit from the development and growth and the technological advancement which are so key to drive these parts. So now, as we seek a larger slice of the tourism pie, we must ask ourselves, how can we fully leverage this digitalization to remain competitive in the fiercely competitive global tourism market? And I have to tell you that you were right. I do travel, and I have the knowledge of what's going on in all the markets of the world. And it's true, I'm probably the only minister in the Caribbean that has that exposure and experience. Every single market in the world. And I also benefit from the fact that Jamaica enjoys the privilege, if you will, of thought leadership. And that we are called upon not only to share our experience to the other markets of the world, but also to guide the world in its own restructuring and reconfiguring and the creation of the new architecture that is to define global tourism into the 21st century and beyond. So critical to all of this, of course, is that we must have our own sense, where are we going? And how we are going to be able to benefit from the new technologies that are now emerging across the world. So as I mentioned, tourism and travel industry has seen at the forefront and has been, in fact, at the forefront of the digital disruption, transforming the way we travel and experience our vacation. Wherever tourists are flocking from, the chances are they will be using some form of digital device. A 2016 Amadeus study indicated that the average traveler performs an average of 50 online searches, visits 38 websites, reads 12 reviews, and spends 15 weeks searching online. In the US, the same data shows that 26% of the travel searches are done in the fourth quarter of the year, and they occur on mobile devices. In other parts of the world, it is even higher. Travel searches conducted on a mobile device total 47% in Europe, 40% in Asia, 38% in the Middle East and Africa, and 34% in Latin America. So, you can see that whether an individual is taking travel inspiration from beautiful destinations, comparing hotel process on Trivago, or checking into their flight via apps, digital touches every point along their journey. There are 5 stages, if you are following, of travel. That's first, of course, is the sharing, getting information, basic information. Second is dreaming. You sit there after ideas have been shared about a destination, you start dream about being there and all images in your head as to what Jamaica looks like and Dunn's River is like. And then the second is planning. So you start to work out now, how do I put things together to get there? How do I put the funds and so on together? And then the next stage is booking. So what I always say is that you share your dream, you look, then you book. Right? And we want to convert the lookers into bookers, yes. And remember, it's bookers, yes? Okay, just to be sure. And then finally, experiencing, right? So between the trip preparations, all those things have to come together. But through technology, such as social media, content marketing, and performance media, we have the ability now to influence the traveler along every step of the journey. And now we come to this new set of demographics that we have to grapple with, called the millennials. So the millennial generation is pushing many of the new technology trends into travel and tourism. And I want to deviate a little from, yes, and he has to go. And I want him to be careful at PAAC today. Yes, the millennials are driving this new wave of technology. And just to quickly tell you that the millennials represent, by way of psychographic profile, the most educated and most professional workforce that the world has ever seen, but they are the poorest. The average millennial is worth $1,000 US. 63% of the millennials value $1,000, and it's just about 10% that is at 5,000. So they are educated, they are technologically savvy, they are indebted because of student loan, highly indebted. They stay longer in their parents' home. They postpone having children a little and getting married and all that. But they want access. They want access. So they want the same level of creature comfort that is available to their parents, who are from the baby boomers, who are Zoomers and who have no intention of leaving planet Earth. They want to live forever. And for them, Watson's is developing all kinds of gadgetry to facilitate ease of movement, building special houses for them, special staircases, special mobile equipment which moves them around, special kitchen and facilities. It's an amazing set of technology that is building around the baby boomers, who are the wealthiest and the richest demographic on Earth even now. And they still travel and travel far. So what the millennials have done is to drive these disruptions that are enabling connectivity and access. And so Airbnb emerged as a product from the millennials who want to enjoy travel and tourism, but who refuse to own anything. Not because they don't want to own anything, but they can't own anything. Because remember, they are the poorest, although the most brilliant. So Airbnb became an avenue for access. So now they have over 4 million rooms across the world, but they own not a single room. And here comes Uber. Have access to more motor vehicles than any other group in the history, but it owns not a single motor car. So this is a sharing economy that now has emerged, where through access we can get wealth. And what we need to do is to develop what in another word we're calling the collaborative economy. So you have the sharing economy, which is really another word for the collaborative economy. What it means is that you use what others have and you connect individuals with assets. There is, for example, the technologies allowing you in all of this to have online shopping. And online shopping has gotten to another dimension in terms of the sharing economy, where a wonderful Indian gentleman, I think his name is Mr. Ashki or some name like that, simply went on Portal and decided that he would provide access to maternity clothing. And there were thousands of women who immediately converged on the portal and proceeded to rent maternity clothes, which they used and returned or used and disposed of and just pay, because for them, maternity dresses and maternity clothing is not something that you want to have around you. You use it, then you move on. Similarly, they do with wedding dresses and tuxedos. And suddenly, the whole business of access became what is required. Connect with a portal, get access, use the facilities, and guess what? The enrichment of the experience is not denied you. So what this technology is doing for us is causing some new connectivities, but in the process, it is creating a level of transparency that the world has never seen before. Indeed, a transparency, excellency, that is frightening. Because this hyperconnectivity that it allows for makes no secret of what it is about, nor does it keep the secrets of anyone who is connected with it. I went to Silicon Valley to visit Google and Airbnb's office, and to go to LinkedIn and a number of the other social media providers. And when I was leaving Google, they gave me a nice gift. And I said, my God, what is this? And when I opened it, it was a network of all my connections, every single soul I had spoken to across the globe. And it was an amazing revelation that the minute you speak on your mobile phone, it's recorded. And that level of transparency frightened me, I must tell you. But it goes beyond that. It tells you the frequency of your communication. It showed you right there with lines how often you spoke to people from different parts of the world. It also showed you how long the conversation was. So the accumulation of all that information that is available there is now being called big data. And this big data is now manipulable. And it is being used as a huge tool to drive decision making, to give knowledge about destinations, about habits, about choices, about patterns, and we define all of them in terms of two big words in tourism. It's driving the demographic profile of the market and the psychographic profile of the market. So with big data, we can now make decisions as to who do you market to? Where do you market? What level of resources do you apply to what market? But the best part of it is now you can measure and manage. So what digitalization has done for us is to create a wider and bigger appreciation of how the new management is to be structured. It helps us to allocate more efficiently and to prioritize more effectively. And then it enables us to measure the impact and the return on our investment, and it makes us better managers. So the Internet of Things has come, the IoT, and with that, a whole new lexicon in relation to what they call now these cognitive systems that are driving the new way in which connectivity is determined. Wi-Fi connectivity is now an expected experience in destinations. I was in Jordan last week for a crisis management and resilience conference, and I tell you that Jamaica, little Jamaica, is now going to be the headquarters for world tourism resilience and crisis management activity. And that's a big plus for us. And there in the desert, there was Wi-Fi everywhere. Full connectivity in the desert. And we have to get there in Jamaica where we don't have desert, therefore connectivity should be easier. And I'm determined that all our airports must be fully connected with Wi-Fi so as we get in the first century. Indeed, 94% of today's travelers require Wi-Fi. 94% of today's travelers require Wi-Fi. I spoke about the sharing economy a while ago and the experiences from Airbnb, and some people yesterday were questioning how the growth numbers were derived and figured that our growth came because the hurricanes hit some other small islands, and we're not being unkind to any island. But you know, those good small brothers and sisters of ours, the capacity they have to drive heavy traffic into our space doesn't really exist. Yeah, so, you know, you will get a few from them, but the numbers can't be anything. So it's a little disingenuous to suggest that the huge growth that we had last year was derived from the misfortune of our little brothers and sisters. I mean, that was so unfair. And denied the fact that Airbnb became a big partner that drove nearly 55,000 visitors into Jamaica in half a year and brought $8 million of income to the pockets of some small people from Trenchtown to Montego Bay. And this is what that new technology is doing. It is creating a new stakeholdership in the case of tourism in our space. It's broadening and democratizing the ownership of the experience of tourism. But we are using more than that because we're making our destination a smart destination. And we are developing apps to enable connectivity between the visitors and the experiential points in Jamaica. One of the apps, for example, is the Taste of Jamaica mobile app and microsite, which we have, which allows our visitors to be able to connect with the culinary trail, the Blue Mountain Culinary Trail, for example, and all those little restaurants and things along the way, they can be connected so that you now can buy the Jamaican experience before you get here. And we used to have a theme which says, once you go, you know. Now with that technology, is once you know, you go. Different game. Also for agriculture, we developed the AgriLink exchange, which we call Alex. And what that does again is to connect the farmers all across Jamaica, whether you're in Octembedi or you in Moko or you in Minnesota for you no come. You don't know Minnesota for you no come, I thought so. But you can connect through Alex. And then we have other smart applications that relates now to, from the IoT, of course, where you get Anna speaking to you and directing you, you know, and we haven't gotten Ed yet. We're coming up with that one. Right? But what happens is that the technology allows for not just no connectivity, but communication. And we can provide information for you along the way. And finally, I want to indicate to you that we are in tourism now launching the most comprehensive and efficient website that Jamaica would have seen in tourism. And we're finalizing all the arrangements for it, and within another couple of days, we are going to roll it out. Because what this will provide is multiple platforms for access by all our players in the industry. And when I say all now, I mean the craft vendors, the little taxi man, the farmer up in the hills, the street food vendor, you know, the pan chicken man. Because every one of them now has a phone. And if you have a phone, a smartphone, you can connect. And if you can connect, you can transmit content. And as long as you're transmitting content, I am your crucible, I can get it out to the different worlds that are out there. So that the fear of not being able to get connected with the tourists because they are in what you call, quote unquote, all-inclusive enclaves. That fear disappears because you are in touch. But it is going to require of you a certain level of efficiency, a certain level of integrity in your operation. Because when you sell your products and it is paid for before the visitor comes, he must make sure that there's no guessing or second guessing of the quality and the standard and the efficiency of the experience that they've paid for. So, technology, therefore, must do two things in closing. It must open new doors for connectivity and to create the level of linkages and facilitation that makes people relate constantly to people. But it must also be supported by integrity. What you say in your content must be realized in the experience. And I believe that this conference will go a long way in getting us new ideas and new insights as to how to enable those two critical elements to come together. Because when they do, and do seamlessly, then it means wealth for our people. Thank you very much.